This is Jason Piccolo, and you are watching the Break It Down show live
Yeah,
with Pete.
that's right. We're live and shit. I love it. Starting off with the swear word today because I promised myself I would do more swears on the show. That's one of my goals.
If you're not swearing,
many times
really
people take. What's that?
If you're not swearing, are you really doing a show?
Yeah. Well, I liked it because most people try to swear less. I'm trying to swear a little more.
Oh,
so.
Okay.
Just for funsies, so then I can back it off and I can modulate it. It is funny though. Look, you've got a lot of stuff you do. You've got a show called The Protectors. You've got a number of other programs that you're developing and everything else. One of the things that's funny to me is when YouTube tries to regulate content with their robot. They'll say, hey, things like, do you have swear words? And then they give you examples, and you're like, yeah, we have swear words, but none of those examples fit, and all these different things. And then they literally they've demonetized a video because I have the live show and then I have the podcast show, right? Same channel, same show, except for just some prettier stuff on the podcast version. And they'll literally demonetize one, but not do that to the other. And then that's it. There's no like, hey, do you realize, like, I don't care which way you want to go, but can you guys make up your mind which one it is? Yeah,
exactly. And we were talking about that before about, if you have certain keywords they're looking for, like save the children or save the whales or whatever, they might just throttle you or they might just block you. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the social media world nowadays.
I'm trying to work on Pete Koch right now. He's in, but I can't see him. So I'm going to have him. So answer this for me then. Let's talk a little bit about your background and what you're working on right now.
Sure. I always give everybody my 45-second background. Obviously Pete knows it because Pete and I have been collaborating for a long time now, but for everybody out there, I was enlisted in the Army in the 90s as an artillery guy. Got out, went into the Guard as an intel type, and then I commissioned as an infantry officer in 99. But instead of going back active duty, I went into law enforcement, worked on the Border Patrol for a while. Then I became a customs special agent, which then became ICE, working narco trafficking. I was recalled due to tour in Iraq in 05, 06. Actually, Iraq was 06, but I got recalled in 05. Did that for a bit. Got out as an infantry captain. And then I went to work some of the Al-Qaeda Guantanamo Bay stuff for a bit. Then went to work back in ICE. Worked ICE for a bunch of years. And then what else did I do? Got a bunch of education. And I teach college. And I am the host, creator, editor, and a one-man show for the Protector Life, which used to be called Jason Piccolo's The Protectors. But I have my own podcast, my own show, and we are streaming on every major podcast platform and now Amazon Fire TV. So how's that sound, Pete?
I love it, man. I love it. I love it that you're expanding and getting into things. Yeah, there's so many. When you wear all the hats, this is one of the things. Like, you have to be able to wear all the hats. At some point, you have to get more heads, and I've got a little bit of help, but I need to get more help. But that means I have to grow enough to be able to afford to get more help. Like my social media presence, I purposely back way off because I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't do all of it, right?
You need like a manager or someone, like a social media manager.
Well, yeah, a manager, an actual professional manager who's like, I can get you paid. Let me go in the marketplace. Because if I'm running around selling myself, it's like, okay, now I have no time to do production. And so you have to manage it. It's crazy.
And there's so much you have to do. Like the other day I was working on, like I have 2 websites. I have one for Jason Piccolo for all the other stuff I do. And then I have one for the Protectors. And I'm like, man, I haven't really been messing with the Protectors. And it's like, when you're trying to work full-time jobs and trying to do this and trying to do that, and it's tough, man. And that's why I think a lot of people give up on podcasting after doing, what do they say, man, average of like 6 or 8 episodes. And they're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And you, that's this is 900 for you, right?
Actually, let's take a moment and really quickly celebrate that, but you are episode 900. And as soon as Pete Koch can get in, he's here. He's just we got to work the tech part out. But this is it. It's episode 900 that we're recording today. And
I'm gonna give you my coffee. Cheers. And I'm wearing all my Andrews and Wilson gear on today. So I give a big shout out to those guys because I love it.
I love Andrews and Wilson. Yeah, Brian and Jeff are great people. They've been on the show a bunch of times. We have a lot of this cross collaboration. Actually, I got to hit you up to get Mike Ritland on the show too. Because he didn't respond to my email, and that's not a knock on him. He gets a lot of stuff, but
well, you know what, brother? And one thing we do is we try to do, and you and I are about the same when it comes to this, probably straight on point when it comes to cross promoting and promoting other people like Andrews and Wilson. I love their products. I'll buy their products. I don't ask for freebies. If someone sends me something, it's cool. But if I buy a product and I like it and I support someone, I'm going to throw it on a show. It's all about supporting the whole network.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would make one recommendation though: get the free book, and then
I
give
got
it
the
to
free
someone.
books. Yeah. Oh, that's a great
And
idea.
prime it. And you're like, hey, I'm going to send this out to someone, whether you read it first or whatever you do. But yeah, get the free book and then still buy one and give it out. But I mean, that's what I try to do is, give me the book and then let me do something else. I want to support these guys, all of them.
Yeah. And I love books. Hey, people want to send me free books. I'm always taking free books.
Yeah.
So Pete, 900 episodes. Let me interview you for your 900th episode.
Go ahead.
What was your first episode? That's what I want to know. What was your first episode and what year? Give us the whole scoop on what it was like. Was it just audio only on your phone or how did you start this whole gambit going?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our first episode was a guy named James Early, and he produced with another guy, produced all of MC Hammer's brilliant music.
Nice.
And so he was from Vallejo. John knew him. John taught him, karate. And so what happened was James was a name, like a legend in Vallejo and in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even so much so that there was a private meeting called for him and Felton Pilot, with Sly Stallone. He also went to Fairfax High. So his classmates were Janet Jackson, Red Hot Chili Peppers, all these people, like the stories. Like I was talking to this guy named Michael Balzery, who's Flea. And Michael's asking me about how I was playing bass because he was playing bass trying to get girls. And Michael's like, how are you doing? And so they kind of and he doesn't want to claim that he taught Flea anything special, but he was there when Flea was trying to figure, so he's just this fascinating dude who's in his own right a wonderful musician and producer and is so fantastically successful. And so we launched hard with that. And he's just a great dude. He's introduced us to people. And so that got us going. And we recorded on some drum mics into a Zoom that we literally found. John and I did an odd job in a garage cleaning up. And we're like, do you want this? No. And so we picked up a Zoom for free. And it lasted maybe 13 shows. And then we had to get a new one. But on a garage find and some of John's drum mics. And he wasn't playing the drums at the time. So all these things were sitting around waiting to be reemployed. And that launched the show.
There it is. 900 episodes. How many years ago was that?
Well, the podcast itself started in 2014, and we were doing the radio show before that, so we count that time. But, yeah.
Look at you.
It's pretty incredible, man. And like you said, 6 shows, 14 shows, whatever it is, most shows failed before then. And we're talking legit people too. Like, hey, I've got a podcast, and it fails. Yeah.
You and I are still grinding.
Yeah, and I like to say we're polishing now too, though. There's some grinds happening still, but it's a lot more polished. Same tool, different pad,
I know, and without your expertise, there would be no Protector show. I would have to give you a lot of kudos to getting me out of there and teaching me all about everything I needed to know about podcasting. Because when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, you had that mic, and you could, and you turn the mic on, and I'm like, please stop doing that.
Yeah. And now I have mics, I have setups. I'm reaching over here. I got a Zoom. Give these guys a big shout out for the Zoom.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I owe a lot of my podcasting to Pete Turner. So if you're out there, you better be liking and subscribing, because you know what, Pete, I hate beating up the audience and I hate beating up anybody about liking and subscribing, but I'm kind of guilty of it too. It's because like I'm obsessed with YouTube now because I always want knowledge and I always want to know what is going on. I want to know, is there something I'm missing? Is there some bit of information? And I'm always scrolling through people's channels and I never hit subscribe unless it's someone that I'm going to watch 3 or 4 videos, and then I'll hit subscribe because I'm like, hey, they got good content. But if someone out there has good content, always just subscribe. I'm
going to push you further on this. You ready? If they have a mechanism to support them with a couple of bucks a month, you will give Postmates, and I'm bringing them up because we had a challenge with them today. You will give them money every month just for a chance to have the service, right?
Yeah.
And you may or may not use it. You may use it once.
Yep.
If you've got someone who's in your life who has something like a podcast or some
Yep.
kind of thing, the way to support them, just give them a couple of bucks. I'm actually
Yeah.
going to on YouTube. I've reached the point where I'm allowed to build out subscriptions, and so I'm going to build. I'm still going to give the show away for free, but if you
Yeah.
choose to, you can support the show at various, kind of like Patreon, how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this will be on YouTube, and this is like a $2 a month ask, or if you want to do more,
it's not-
$9 a month.
I mean, here's the deal.
I'm just going to layer that in.
I filled this up with Nespresso, and it cost me $1.10 a pod, after discounts and all the other stuff. So 2 Nespresso cups is going to support your show, because people don't realize all the hidden fees that go in with these shows. Like right now, you and I are on StreamYard. We're live. You got to pay the StreamYard fee. You got to pay, like for me, I pay the Buzzsprout fee. I got to pay them like $24 a month. I got to pay StreamYard 20 something or $50 a month. I'm on Vimeo. So I could put all my stuff on Amazon Fire, and that cost me a bunch. And if my wife's watching right now, really, it doesn't cost as much, but that cost me like $50-$60 a month. And I don't have anything coming back. So I like the idea, asking a couple bucks. Hey, you want to support the show? You want to get better content? You want to get more quality? You want this, want that? Just help out,
I like to say, like, would you buy me a drink? Because the answer that's always yes. Well, then just instead of buying me a drink, just give me the $5. I might say in like a Red Bull and vodka in Vegas on the strip at $11, $15, $20, whatever that is. I'm just saying $10 a month. Would you buy me a drink every month? And also, by the way, you can have my number. We can chat. I mean, not that anybody's like so desperate to chat for me, they'd pay me $10, but you've got access to me.
And Cindy, Pete is the man. And I know this is kind of like a Pete love fest for the past 10 minutes, but it's true. Pete has done a lot for so many different people. And it's not just in the podcasting world. It's in the world in general. He's helped so many of my friends out when it comes to questions and consultations and everything. And you know what? This is Pete's job. So, let's give around.
Yeah, we're going to keep making it about me for as long as possible. And I'm still working on Pete Koch trying to get in. We're having some technical troubles.
I know you're working on tech issues right now. I have this token. I have a Henry Herschel Williams coin. Herschel Woody Williams. That's what it is. I always have his coin. And whenever I'm on my show, I'm always flipping it. And it's kind of like my nervous token. So some people you shake their legs and everything. Do you have anything you always do during a show or before it or after to prep?
Yeah. And by the way, there's because we had to move the time up. We're in the landscaper hour for my yard. So if the lawnmower is loud, I apologize to everybody. There's a couple things that I do. I'll tell you one thing I do with coins, and I see your rack of coins there behind you. If I'm given a coin, which I always love it, and the honor is great, I pass that along as well. I give it to someone who's not in any way part of that community. And I'm like, here, man, you mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because that's the only, they won't have, I don't know how many coins are back there. They won't ever have a rack of 10 even. And so to give them something, it's like, hey, you mean something to me. And so I push out coins. If you give me a coin, you should know it's temporarily in my hand and it will be in somebody else's.
Yeah. You and I had a discussion about coins before, and I've had so many of them. And they're not, I get a lot of law enforcement ones and I love them. But there was like a Kickstarter years ago. I got to show you.
All right, I'm going to grab Pete here while you're doing that.
Okay, there's Pete. So,
hey, Pete, guys, sorry for the trouble. Technology.
No problem. I was just showing.
It's all right, man.
Pete T. That's what I'm going to call him.
We've just been chatting, and I wanted to let you. Oh yeah, okay. Tell us your
pinup coin. It's my pinup coin set.
I love it.
From 2013, and there's a calendar on the back. So if anybody wants to get a deep dive, that's what's behind me. A lot of them.
And I wanted to say one thing too, because I love it when it's the Pete's doing these shows. It's so great. And Pete, I don't know if you know this, but this is episode 900 for the Break It Down show. And we don't spend much time on milestones, but you do have to spend some time. So thanks for all the partnering you've done with me on the show. You're a big part of the 900 that we've had. And make sure that you get to celebrate too, because the podcast that you produce and host on just hit a big number.
That is awesome. Congratulations on that 900 epic. Truly.
You guys are doing great things, man. There he is, Pete Koch.
I want to do I've got Pete Koch.
There's the shirt.
Started a new shirt. Pete, tell us about your new shirts. I'm wearing mine right now.
Oh, great. Well, glad to see that. Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump into the I thought about this for years, jumping to the t-shirt game, with regards to the amount of attention that I get with the Swede character that I played in the movie Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood all those years ago, and this sort of commemorated on it's on a shirt. If you go to my website, you can see it's on a coffee mug, the standard issue hoodie, and that kind of stuff. So, but thanks, I appreciate that. And um, Jason, I checked out your store, and it is really awesome. I mean, there's everything from practical, from swag to really practical, useful stuff, including the what's that ruck workout equipment?
Oh, the
ruck?
Go Ruck stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love Go Ruck, man. Yeah, let's talk about fitness, because Pete, Pete Bottom, Pete the Swede. Pete has been doing, like, what's 30 seconds, what's 60 seconds. And, that's really badass, because, I, over the summer, I was like, hey, you know what? I can't run anymore. I have the infantry background. I mean, what does infantry people like to do? Is they like to ruck. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to put a ruck on. I'm going to cut all the booze out of my life, and boom, I'm going to do it. And then watching you guys and going crazy, it's like there's so much motivation out there, and it's just badass. And that's why I like, anybody check out Go Ruck, and please check out Pete. Pete's got a lot going on, man. I love it.
And from a fitness standpoint, I haven't talked about it enough, but I have from time to time talked about wearing a weighted vest.
Yep.
Which is the sort of layperson's general fitness approach to the rucksack, or that you wear and carry up to as much as 45 pounds, I believe.
Yeah.
And that kind of equipment can really be a game changer. Not everybody's ready for 45 pounds by a long shot, but I watched your video, and you started with 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And before
10
you know
pounds.
it. So you're,
and
so
one
you're,
thing, yeah, and one thing I got to tell you about the weighted vest is, so over the week, last week, I picked one up, and Go Ruck sells just a plate carrier, and you don't have to buy Go Ruck. So I got a 30-pound plate carrier, just a carrier. So when I walk the dogs now, I'll throw the 30 pounds on, and then, walk around a block or whatever. That's like a mile. So every time you do something, if you put the weight on, and it's not like, I could feel it in my shoulders and everywhere. And that's how I dropped 30 pounds. Well, and plus, Pete Turner, once you drop off that booze, man, that 30 pounds come right off, man. All of it. Boom.
You mean this bottle of booze sitting on my
Because you and I
desk?
were talking about buying drinks before, and I'm like, I know I should give up coffee, but I can't do it, man. But, just all these empty calories, and find someone that motivates you. Definitely. Because I don't do any of this.
Pete Koch motivates the fuck out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Him, and then he's also introduced me to a bunch of other people in his world. But if you guys aren't following Pete on Instagram, you got to. And then also, I put the link for Pete's website. You can get the Swede. Look, if you're a fan of the Swede, these are shirts made by the Swede. So himself, I think it's great, and I love what he's doing. And Jason, I love what you're doing, man. You're just so prolific with your posts and all the ways you're trying to connect to people in the different areas that you do. And I do want to talk a little bit about this. Okay, so there's a lot of topics that you specialize in, go on Court TV and talk about, been on Fox News, all those things. But this child abduction stuff that we've got going on, this human trafficking problem, and why the hell does Facebook block sites that are dedicated to not having children be raped, abducted, killed? What is up with that?
There's like a really weird line. And I don't, it's the Facebook algorithms. It's not even algorithms. It's whoever's programming that stuff in. There's such a focus that should be on human trafficking. And I like to focus, me, my background's always been like international. I always had to have an international nexus because of my background in Homeland Security and smuggling and everything else. But I've been looking at domestic trafficking for probably the past year and a half, I'm working on a book with that right now. But the thing is, there is so much domestic trafficking going on, and there's so many groups out there that talk about it. And there's so many people trying to stop us from talking about it. And I don't understand how and why they can do that. Sometimes you'll get people out there who say, we got to kill all pedos and all the other stuff. It's not politically correct. I don't agree with that. My thing is, If you see something, don't intercede. You have to contact the authorities because they may be building a case on them. But I don't know, man. There's so much of it that it's nuts, man. I live here right outside of DC in a small area in Fairfax County, and there was 30 cases, 30 victims saved in our area alone. And that's in one operation. And can you imagine how many hundreds of thousands of just domestic, meaning, and when I talk about domestic, I talk about the United States, domestic children that go missing each year, or they get sold each year. You know, if you lump them all into the same category of missing, sold, and victimized within a year, it's crazy because they say that the average lifespan of a trafficked victim is 7 years. And I always like to say victims because they are victims. And that's one thing I do want to talk to you both about in a minute is about prostitutes and how we view them. But let's take a look at domestic trafficking. And, you know, I've been trying to put on like a series of YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff like that, talking about, you know, just the victims that you have in your in plain sight, and how, you know, a lot of people say, well, if I see someone that's a victim, I'm going to go in there and grab them and take them away. But, you know, the victim culture, when you've been victimized, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to get away. And then it becomes your story against some stranger who came and snatched you away from a trafficker. And sometimes you don't even realize you're being trafficked. And sometimes you kind of have that almost like a quasi Stockholm syndrome, where you're like, this is the only life I know. Granted, I'm getting sexually abused and I'm getting victimized, I'm getting beat, but that's the only life I know. And anything outside of that, you know, I'm done. So a lot of times you're getting so much different stuff going on out there, and so many groups that want to help out and stop this, that just trying to find the right avenue and the right approach to do it is sometimes you just have to be aware of what you're seeing, what you're witnessing, and what the ground truth is out there, man. And I'm just kind of rambling on, but there's so much to this stories, man.
Can I just, Jason, can
Yeah.
you explain to me, because I believe, you know, as a, you know, just as a consumer of news and media, and this topic, which has been on my radar for the last few years, and it's a mystery to me why it doesn't generate more outrage, and
Yep.
but is there not, sadly, a political
Yeah,
component?
absolutely. You know, you have a lot of Trump just came up with the trafficking group, the Coalition to End Trafficking. Believe that's what it is. You do have DOJ came up with the victim and witness programs that are really robust. But the problem is getting it out there and getting bipartisan support to try to say, hey, you know what? This is happening everywhere. And by the way, it's not just a federal problem, it's a state and local problem. And I'd venture to say that a lot of the domestic trafficking is more of a state and local problem, because they're the ones that are on the ground and they know who the perpetrators are within their areas. And a lot of this isn't crossing state boundaries. And if it does, then it becomes a federal problem as well. There are 85 FBI task forces out there at a minimum. But then you also have the state and local task forces and everybody that are looking at it. But it is a political thing. Do you want to say, when it comes down to your promoting your town as like, this is the Mecca, we need to send people here, and this is the best place to come for tourism, or this is the best place in that. And then if you find out that a smuggling cell or a trafficking cell was operating in your town, it just doesn't look good. The optics don't look good. Look at what happened in a massage parlor during the last Super Bowl. Was that one of the main NFL owners got arrested in a massage parlor? And that's one thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, the Patriot.
Yep. Look at it this way. Prostitution, massage parlors, you know, 99% of what people think out there is they don't understand. And we're talking about, like, you know, they don't understand that a lot of these prostitutes, these girls working in massage parlors, a lot of them can be victims of trafficking. So then you get someone who, like the Patriots owner, goes in there and gets a massage, and he's essentially victimizing a trafficking victim, or he could be allegedly victimizing an alleged traffic victim. You know what I mean? So then it becomes optics. Um, a lot of people look down at prostitutes. A lot of them are like, well, you know what? It's their choice. It's their body. They could do what they want. But if you're a prostitute and that pimp is your trafficker and he's making his money off of your back, hour and day and 24/7, 365 or whatever, or, you let you sleep here and there and give you a fix to keep going, but and uses you for that 7 years and gets another girl. How do we look at them? How do you look at prostitutes? I mean, I'm not going to throw you, but how does the general public look at that? And then when it comes down to arresting the pimp, it's the prostitute's word against, or the massage parlor worker's word against the pimp or the one who's holding the money. So, I mean, getting those cases to stick it's unbelievable. Look at, I don't want to bring up the name because I might get Clintoned, but look at Epstein and that whole crew. And when you're talking, these big time people have millions and billions of dollars to throw at the problem of getting them off of anything they've been associated with or touched with. Whose word is it? That's why it's not popular.
There's also this narrative that comes in that we're calling them sex workers now. But that's not accurate. Yes, I want to empower people who are using their body to make money, whatever way that makes sense. Not for kids, though. It can't be that we're reframing this to make it okay, and then perpetuating this human trafficking problem. So
well,
not all sex work.
Let's talk about kids. I'm a dad, 2 kids, love them, 10 and 12. But can you imagine someone abusing over and over and over again babies, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds? And we all know that evil exists. If you've been following me for a while, I always talk about a lot of people don't know that evil exists. But if you're within our community, within a protector community, within you guys, you know that evil does truly exist. And when I say evil, I'm talking about there's men and women that abuse children over and over and over again. And we're talking about anal abuse. We're talking about vaginal. We're talking about everything. And it's sickening. And that's why it's not a pretty picture. It's not. And when you've been living in a bubble for so long, you watch either their CNNs, your Foxes, this, that, and everything. You're on your side, this side, that side. You don't want to believe that there is something out there right now that is pure evil, because it just kills your narrative, what the world is supposed to be like. If that makes sense.
It's you're saying it's like the topic is almost too heavy for some people.
Yeah.
And maybe too, difficult even for the people that are making the decisions of what the programming at the network should be. What are we going to talk about for this 8-minute segment? How about let's talk about something else.
Yeah, I know. When you're doing your 24/7 politics and you have that 3-minute soundbite, and that's why I stopped doing some major networks a while ago, because I started turning into a soundbite. That's one thing about the podcast world is we could talk about this. We're on the air for 28 minutes now. We could have a conversation about it. When it comes to, when I first became a special agent, I had to do some training for child pornography. And the images I saw back then I could close my eyes and picture it and go, oh my God, a bloody child's vagina. I mean, it's really, do you want to hear that? Do you want to see that on the news? Do you want to picture that? But that's what I mean. Like, it's uncomfortable to talk about it. But it's happening. It's happening daily. And the thing is, you have to be aware of it. And pedophiles and traffickers and abusers and victimizers, they're all out there. And they aren't what you seem. I always say, gone are those days of the 1970s pimp with the feather in his hat driving the pimped out El Camino or Cadillac. There's gone. Pimps are still there. They're still doing that. But now you're finding traffickers everywhere, man. It could be mom and pops. It could be family members. It could be like a church deacon. It could be anybody, because it's such a profitable business. I always narrate it to trafficking drugs. now, or smuggling drugs, trafficking drugs, or whatever you want to call it. If you're caught with a kilo of coke in your hand, you're going to go to jail, right? Hey, you can't. Oh, it's on my drugs, but you have a kilo of coke in your hand. It's something tangible. But when you're caught with a kid, a trafficked, or a teenager, or whoever, a woman, how do you? It's their word against yours. And hey, by the way, they've been arrested for prostitution or whatever, trafficking. Oh, they're a runaway, or they got track marks, or they're just a drug user, and that it's your word against hers. When you could make, let's say, for instance, you have a Super Bowl weekend. I like to bring that up because I wrote an op-ed about it and did my research. You have a Super Bowl weekend where you have 3 girls with you. You go down there 4 or 5 day weeks. And we're not talking like COVID times. We're talking about just, and you're making 35 grand over a weekend with 3 girls, and it's costing, and you're only going to make 20 grand profit on a Kia Coke. What are you going to leverage? What are you going to do? That's why overall worldwide trafficking is $150 billion a year. 150 billion, drug trades more than that, trillions, but it's an easy profit. It's easy profits. And you know what? It's recyclable. You get rid of one victim, you recruit another victim. And what I say about when I talk about recruiting, and if I'm rambling on, everybody just throw something at me. But recruiting means these traffickers can take 6 to 8 months to develop someone that they're going to victimize. So it's not like there are people that get just snatched off the street. Yes, that does happen. But a lot of times these traffickers are recruiting, and by recruiting, they're mentally and emotionally taking charge of that person until they are in their control. And then they use them over and over and over again.
Is your typical victim a citizen?
Yeah, a lot, and that's one thing I do want to say is that a lot of them are citizens. And yes, a lot of traffic victims are non-citizens as well. And that's a whole nother story there, because who are they going to go to? I was a ICE supervisor at fugitive operations. I ran Delaware for a while. And I used to have a lot of attorneys come into me and say, hey, you know what? I have a client. They've been getting victimized, they've been getting beat, raped, and abused. And I'd be like, look, they can come in and talk to me. I don't have to determine whether or not they're here legally or not. That's my discretion. A lot of people don't realize that. But victims coming forward, how many people out there are going to be comfortable going into an ICE office or going into law enforcement and saying, oh, by the way, I've been getting trafficked, I've been getting victimized and raped and over again. And by the way, can you help me and not deport me? So that's a whole nother area that is just, there's got to be a path. And yes, they do have specific visas for them, but then it comes into the courts and permissions and lawyer fees, and who has money to pay an immigration lawyer if you're here illegally and you're getting victimized and raped? And yes, we can provide pro bono stuff, and there are pro bono services out there, but they're overwhelmed as well.
It becomes complex, that's for sure.
Very complex.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, is it's not easy. It's not cut and dry. And just like Pete said about the sex workers,
Right. Yeah. And we got to make sure we separate sex worker from children.
Yeah.
And especially, like you said, you taught me this term, tender age. We're talking 8-year-olds, and this doesn't get to be the land of fantasy and, it's a conspiracy theory. No. It's a fact that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry within the U.S., Americans to Americans, Native Americans included in that. Mm-hmm. I know President Trump has done some work to close some of those federal loopholes where, in the American Indians were just continue to get hammered and targeted by this. Because you and I know in the threat world, people who are exploitable get exploited.
Yeah.
And so you drug them, snatch them, whatever it is. Talk a little bit about those 500 kids in cages we always hear about. It's such a dumbed down phrase. I'm not saying that we want 500 kids in cages, but it's not as simple as that.
And I've talked about this a million times. We've talked about it on the show, but I'll explain how the kids in cages variable happens, and how the kids in cages were predated the current administration. So in 2012, 2013, and by the way, now, there was a massive influx of what they called unaccompanied alien children, UACs. And yes, later on, they do become a company, but we'll get into that in a second. They come to the border, hundreds of thousands of them over years. So let's just say in 1 year we had 60,000, 64,000 or 84,000. It's that high of a number per year. And let's say 20,000 of those go through a certain port of entry. And we'll say El Centro, California, just to say, and this is just hypotheticals and just for the scenario. They come to the border. The Border Patrol, or if it's at a port of entry, the Customs and Border Protection Officer will take custody of that child. They'll then bring them back to the station house, whether that's Border Patrol or Office of Field Operations. And that's where they'll put them. They put them back in the day in cages while they were processing them. And they were just areas where you could put people, because these Border Patrol stations are not made to house 1,000 people at a time. They're not made to house 500 at a time, most of them. So they had all these kids, and then the kids would be there for a short amount of time until they were processed. Then ICE would take them and transport them to Health and Human Services, who would then transfer them to a sponsor, who would then transfer them, out. And that's what the problem was. There was such a massive influx of children coming that they were putting them in caged in areas. Did I agree with it? No. Do I still agree with it? I don't know if it still happens. I doubt it. I know they put up tent cities. But the other thing now is, the past several years is a lot of adults were coming across with children who weren't part of their familial relations. And I think that's where these 500 came in, is vetting these adults to determine whether or not they're actually family. You need DNA, and you need rapid DNA, and you need it now. So that's what the problem was, is they were removing the adult from the variable to determine whether or not that adult was part of the family unit, because they were exploiting it, and they still are exploiting it. With the current state of affairs in the United States, I think they said 9,000 unaccompanied alien children just came up to the border. So you're going to see it again.
Unless there's enough political will to.
Now, when it comes to this, man, it's such a lose-lose situation and especially a lose-lose for the kids.
Wow.
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something. Let's talk about Pete's shirt again, man. Hey, Pete.
I got even better, Jason. You're gonna like this, Pete. This connection here. Jason, you and I have a mutual, at least an acquaintance. I don't know if you became friends with her, but and I love the great variety of your career, which includes you produced a short film called Clown Motel.
Clown Motel 2. Boom. And Clown Motel.
And that is an all-time great title. And
I know.
My understanding is the short it did end up becoming a feature. Maybe you could fill in the story on that. But in the short that you produced was a dear actress friend of mine, Angie Stevenson.
Oh yeah, I never met her, but I've heard about her. Wow, yeah.
Okay. Oh, she's a sweetheart, and I've actually worked on both short films and kind of low budget films myself.
I love it, man.
And,
let's talk about it.
So when I went to your IMDb page,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm scrolling through there, and I'm like, look at this film, and there's Angie Stevenson is a bit of a sort of a burgeoning sort of B movie vixen.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize there was so much work in that industry, because I helped produce a short. I just gave a bunch of money to the GoFundMe or the Kickstarter back then, because I was friends with a stuntman named Casey Hendershot who knew Joe Kelly, the producer and director. And I was like, this looks cool. But then I found out Clown Motel 2 was coming out, and it was going to be a military squad going up against, killer clowns. So I hit up the producer and I say, hey, look, do you have anybody that's going to be a military advisor? And they're like, no. And I'm like, hey, I'll do it. So I flew out this past summers. I flew out to Nevada, and I went to the
Oh,
Clown Motel too. And I actually have a part in the movie. So I had my first part. I do get
great.
killed by a clown, and I'm excited, man. That's going to be one of my ventures. Is I want to do voiceover work, and I want to be that background guy. I want to be just the guy in the back who just kind of sees what's going on, because I love the whole industry and how things work when it comes to like lighting and this and that. And it's just like when you do these podcasts, it's just, you want to know things. So it's really
Yeah, you
cool,
see
man.
how it all works, and that's reminiscent of when I worked on Heartbreak Ridge, and I was
Yeah.
I was on that film for 5 weeks,
Wow.
and I'm only in the second half of the movie, but yet it was 5 weeks for me, and we had the I guess there was six or seven principal characters in Gunny Highway, Clint Eastwood's under his command, and but yet that was filled in by about another 5 or 6 real recon Marines
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know exactly what the process was. There was some audition process for them because a lot of guys wanted to do it, and they got paid SAG after wages.
Mm-hmm.
And they all got a chance to join the Screen Actors Guild, which is kind
Oh,
of a
that's
big
awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
That's where you're at. And but then they did double duty with us as advisors to make sure that, as Clint would set up the scene and says, okay, it's gonna look like this. You're gonna run from here to here and blah blah, and to make sure that we're holding the gun correctly and or sort of gazing, and
Mm-hmm.
doing things correctly as we were moving. And so it was great fun, and I think they enjoyed that too. And sort of the captain of that group of guys was a medic, and I think there's a natural, I got a sense, you can correct me, but there's sort of a natural attraction sometimes, because this guy was
The doc.
the alpha male, and he was just one of these continuous life learners, because I didn't know you could do this, but he also went to Ranger school.
Mm-hmm.
He asked, I said, how did you manage? He says, I wanted to do it. I got in, and then he went for some additional special training, some underwater, I guess.
Yeah, recon gets to do a lot of that stuff,
Yeah,
especially like the recon
right. So he
doc and
was
stuff.
recon,
Yeah.
right. But then he also did a little bit of cross training with some other branches, I think. And I was like, so he sort of explained to me that, if you're qualified enough, you get some of these
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. I thought it was great. So I learned a lot about the military, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I was still a young
Pete,
actor then. I
that
was
move.
learning about how all the pieces of the puzzle with what a grip did,
Yeah.
and what electricians did, and all these things.
Well,
And
that movie was so
it was
iconic
fun.
though, because I grew up in that time area. Like you could hardly find good, like that was like the platoon times and everything, the Full Metal Jacket years. And finding like there was only like about 5 or 6 movies that kind of were around the realistic type, as realistic as they could be. And Heartbreak Ridge was one of them, between that, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket. I don't know. And then, like you have the Pete and Pete, when did you join the Army? I was 93.
I joined in 94,
Yeah.
early 94.
So we didn't have a lot. There was no internets back there. No interwebs and stuff like that. So it's great to see, man. And to be here talking to you, that's awesome, man. Because I had you guys probably had Dale Dion too, haven't you? Have you had Dale Dion?
No, I haven't had Dale yet.
That's like the thing is like talking about the influences in your life and like how you make decisions based off of movies and media and stuff like that. It's a huge influence on people, especially on a younger age. When you're about to join the military, you grasp on any information you can and try to get a grip or a grasp on what it is like, man. It's really cool.
Well, one comment that I've had over the years, I mean, the amount of, through social media, the amount of people that reach out to me and says, oh, Heartbreak Ridge had such an impact on me,
Mm-hmm.
Whether they joined the military or not. But many times, and I appreciate this comment, was that one of the reasons that Heartbreak Ridge resonated with a lot of people is that they'll go out of their way to say, there's plenty of movies about the Army or the Marine Corps or whatnot, but they're typically sort of a negative look, or a very disturbing sort of look at what's going on. And whereas Heartbreak Ridge is really, in my judgment, that movie is it's really two movies in one. And it's a love story between Gunny Highway and the Marsha Vincent love interest, and then there's the other story, this craziness going on, this difficulty that Clint's having with his career and managing people, but he's disseminating valuable lessons to the people that are in his charge throughout the film, which climaxes with a very positive battle, right, in saving these kids that were hostages in a medical school in the Caribbean. So the movie ends on a high note, so it kind of checks all those boxes, and I feel good to be a part of that.
And I'm going to be watching that today. There's no way I got to watch it now.
Yeah, well, it's so easy sometimes. I know I'm a historian of film, and my dad fought in World War II, and then that was such a rich time in Hollywood. It was all through the mid and late 40s, because they were making so many movies about it. There was such this amazing source material that the Allied forces saved the world from Nazi Germany, and then we had these great actors of the time, Jimmy Stewart and Gary Cooper playing these great roles. And then it wasn't so good for a long time,
coming off the 70s. I mean, think about you watch when you watch Apocalypse Now, and you watch, like, I didn't grasp the meaning of Apocalypse Now, and I didn't grasp the meaning of The Deer Hunter when you're watching it as a young person. If I watch it now, you completely see what is going on. You completely see the narrative. You completely see about the influence of the 70s and that decade-long war, and the death and destruction and the demoralization. And you see it there. You see it in those movies, but you don't see it when you're a kid, because you're like, oh, this is cool. Shoot 'em up, bang, bang. But now you don't really. And then you do have the 80s. Then you have the positive Vietnam vet. You have it starts getting out there where they're not all crazed, except for, Mel Gibson and Lethal Weapon, where he's just kind of a cuckoo, but he's awesome, man. But that's the thing, though, is like now when you talk about like our generation, this generation Pete and I went to war with, you don't really see a lot of positive movies coming out, because there's really not a lot of positive from war. Anything with a happy ending. Now, 12 Strong did have a happy ending, but a lot of that was fictionalized with the whole, we're going to shoot guns and ride horses and jump on top of tanks. But you don't really see a lot of positive aspects out there. No real happy ending movies. A lot of times when I watch the movies now, at the end of it, I'm just like, damn, there's a lot of work we have to do. And by a lot of work we have to do, that's the things I like to see. That the Swede shirt is, so you're going to donate the proceeds to that, or how does that work? Or are you just raising awareness?
You can work with me on a cause.
Let's do. Well, let's talk about causes right now, because I'm about to become, some sort of board member or some sort of helper with Hunter 7 Foundation. And that is for toxic exposure. And I don't know, this one topic that's really close to my heart, because I may look healthy as a horse, but there's so much going on. Because when I was deployed to Iraq in 2006, I was in Balad. Now, Balad, Iraq had some of the biggest burn pits and biggest areas where they were burning toxic matter that I ingested it and inhaled it all the time. And for people out there who don't understand what the burn pit is, and Pete, I don't know if you do either. I know Pete Turner does, because he's probably ingested some of this.
I lived on Balad in 2006. Yep.
Yeah, you and I probably ate at the same chow hole over in Camp Severson, CJ Sodif area. But the thing is, so you have burn pits, and this is for everybody out there. And if you could take anything out of this conversation today, besides trafficking, we need to stop it. We need to do it. We need to do that. burn pits are just massive pits where they take everything. And we're talking about, hey, you got a tire over there, got blown up off of an Humvee that got blown up by an IED, throw it in there. You got medical waste. Oh, by the way, we're one of the biggest, hospitals in the area. Throw all the medical waste in this big, huge pit. And when I'm talking pit, I'm talking the size of 2 football fields. Hey, you got old car batteries, throw them in there. You got depleted, you have unexploded ordnance or that's been exploded. Just basically throw everything in there. You have cleaners that you don't use anymore that could be poisonous, throw them in there. And then what you do is you take jet fuel or diesel and you toss on top of it and you light it on fire. There is no furnace. This is open air burn pit. So all this stuff goes in there. It's lit on fire. It burns 24/7, 365 days a year. A lot of people are like, well, you can see the smoke. You can see this. The smoke's rising. Well, a lot of times during the day, and Pete can attest to this, that smoke stays down below.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, mixed within these burn pits and everything burning up together and mixing in, including all the sand and all the other microcosm type stuff that is from the natural environment there, is particulate matter. Fine, microscopic particulate matter that you can't see in smoke. Smoke goes up, particulate matter and everything else is rising to the sides. It goes into your nose, it goes into your mouth, goes into your ears, goes into anything that's open, and it travels deep through all your body's natural protection barriers. So, you have little hairs in your nose and little every area, everything stops. It goes deep down into your bronchial passageways and embeds itself. When it embeds itself inside your system, it's so fine, so microscopic. Your body's natural reaction to kill all the invaders, it doesn't quite work on all of this stuff. And those particulate matter that's now embedded into your body becomes cancerous. That cancer spreads and spreads and spreads. And we've been losing, I don't know how many thousands, maybe even 100,000 of us dying. So I look healthy right now. There is another reason I ruck. When I ruck, my heart rate doesn't go crazy. I'm not producing phlegm. I'm not going nuts. So my heart rate stays steady. If I went outside right now and tried to run 100 yards, I'd be wheezing because I can't get my heart rate up anymore because I have so much crap going on in here. And I wake up in the morning and I just have mucus coming out of, I know it's not pretty, mucus coming out everywhere. I have intense pressure in my ears. I have all sorts of stuff going on and I can't explain it. I've been to the seasonal allergist and I've been to the allergist, had all the allergy tests. Yes, I have seasonal allergies, but the problem is it's pouring rain today. The leaves are almost all gone. And how can I still have seasonal allergies when I'm inside? I've changed the filters on everything.
Jason, let me jump in here real quick too, because I want to say this too. Picture, if you will, this pit from hell, where again we're pouring fuel onto human waste. I mean, I can make a whole new list of things, right? Yeah. And then off in the distance comes 2 young 20-year-old dudes carrying a box of whatever, or a half a barrel full of human waste. Mm-hmm. And they walk up to the edge of this burn pit and dump everything in. And in your mind, you think, oh, well, they'll have some kind of like Tyvek suit and protective breathing. No, nothing. Walking up, maybe a helmet on, maybe some sunglasses, maybe gloves, but nothing to protect them.
And even if you warm up the whole time, mission-oriented protective posture gear, the whole time, 24/7, you can't live like that. There was in Balad, you literally had a guard post in a tower right next to the burn pit. Right. And they're like, well, they probably gave that guy a mask, our girl. Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. So Pete, if you want an organization to support Hunter 7. I've really been working with them on the background. We did a YouTube video on it, and I put out a bunch of YouTube posts the past 3-4 weeks now, talking about exactly that particulate matter and burn pits, toxic exposure, because it doesn't only affect military people. And that's the thing is, like, Pete, you went back over as a contractor, right?
And a federal civilian, and yeah, that's
and
another
and that's
aspect.
the other thing, and that's the other aspect. Federal civilians, deployed civilians.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't realize that all those Department of Defense employees over there, they were voluntold to go over there, basically saying, "Well, you signed your agreement. You either go
yeah.
over there, or you're going to lose your job."
And
So
we
you
don't have the same protection like the
Yep.
VA and everything. So if you worked for whoever it is,
Mhm.
contract company, you know, 25 years down the line, you're like, man, my body's broken from all that combat you
Yep.
guys paid me well to go do. You know, who's going to take care of those guys? I mean, as a contractor and
yeah.
as a DA civilian, I went outside the wire daily.
And that's the thing, is
exposed to
who's
everything.
but when it comes to reporting and data, in order to figure out what is inside of us, all these cancers and everything, you need data. And the VA had the burn pit registry. Yay. Do you go to the VA for any healthcare? I don't. I mean,
do.
well, you do, but you're one of like 7 people I know, maybe out of.
But and also, like when you talk about the burn pit registry, it's hard to get us to sign up to get on. Like, well, I'm fine. Yeah, you're fine now. You know, but like,
but that's the thing, is like,
annotated.
so you have someone like a civilian or someone like me who goes to a civilian doctor. There's no questionnaire that says, "Hey, by the way, I was in a burn pit, or I could have been part of some sort of toxic exposure sometime in my career." You don't have that collection. You don't have it for civilians. So that's some of the legislation we're trying to get passed, is to say, just a questionnaire. You don't need PII, but we do need data in order to tackle problems, and I consider it like a criminal investigation. If I want to go after someone, I got to collect data. I got to collect human intelligence, and I need it. And that's one thing we need data. So yeah, brother. Pete Koch is now part of the Hunter 7 Foundation. Just check out Hunter 7 on Instagram, and then please give him a follow. And Pete, I'll provide some information about that, and I'll rock some Swede shirt. Definitely rock some Swede shirt. Swede is such an awesome, iconic character. Swede's now going to be tackling the burn pit toxic exposure. Yeah, and that's a bipartisan issue. You know that? You can't, it's cancer, man. Fuck cancer. Seriously.
I'm in the Swede is the actual guy behind Swede is actually all about health and fitness. So so this sounds like a perfect connection.
Yeah, I mean, the Medal of Honor winner Ron Scherer just died, and they believe the cancer came from toxic exposure. So many people have died from it, man. It's the thing is, I don't want it to be like Agent Orange, where we're waiting 40 years to figure out what's going on, and half of us are dead already.
If you guys look on the screen, you'll see the hunter7.org link. And then if you're on the podcast side, you're listening, just go to the show notes. That stuff will be in there, and you can go and support those guys. And by the way, tomorrow's Giving Tuesday. So if you're going to give anything, here's a good cause to give to. And if you're not sure what to do, get a Charity on Top gift card. That allows the person who gets the gift card to donate to charity. So you can spend $50. You can actually cover all the transactional fees. So it's actually the dollar for dollar, the best way to give to an organization. It just shows up in their account. They don't have to go to the bank or anything. It's just bam. So Charity on Top is a great way to give for Giving Tuesday or any time of the year. Not a sponsor, just a passionate push to do more to give. I mean, I don't need to give Jason another coin. I'm like, hey man, here's $5 for charity. You got so many of them.
Yeah, brother, I love my. I do have a Hunter 7 coin right here. I gotta find this.
Nice.
Oh, here it is, right here. And you can go to Hunter 7, and they usually have coins for sale there.
There they are. Nice.
So Hunter 7.
I love that whole coin aspect of.
Yeah.
That's across all the branches of the military.
And law enforcement. A lot of the ones behind me are law enforcement.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, man.
It's a neat way to recognize somebody for doing something, and just it was a pretty exclusive thing, and I'm glad that it's not anymore. Now it's a lot more like we're gonna make 200 of these coins. Let's give them out, and then we'll get 200 more.
Out, I do need to make some protectors coins, and I'll be giving those out too.
Nice.
I'm so bad. I don't make money, like all that gear and stuff on a website, the protector stuff. I don't make any money. Actually, I make no money. Because that's part of uniform humor. They might make money on it. I don't. I just do it because I'm just, hey, you want to protect your shirt? Go over there, use code.
Yeah,
blah, blah.
It's not a way to get rich. I can tell you myself.
No, and I did become affiliates for things because I hate asking people directly for money. Like, this is a combat flag. combatflags.com. Go there and use code protectors. Stuff like that. I hate doing it, man. I can't sell crap. I can't. Just like and share. That's all I can do. I'm like, always like and share, like and share.
Hey, people that want us to look into what Jason does and support his work, I'm going to put his link here on the page. You can always go to he's got a couple websites, but if you go to jasonpiccolo.us, you'll be able to get going in the right direction. If you want to get his,
one thing I really want to get is I'm on 580 something subscribers now for YouTube. So I need to get my 1,000 lucky. So if you go to YouTube, / The Protector Life, or you can just Google Jason Piccolo, you'll find it. And check that out.
I'll put that link here in the show while we're talking here as we wrap things up. But man, I appreciate
this is gonna be a marathon. No, Pete, we're going for this is your 900th episode, man. We have to go for 9 hours or 90 minutes or something.
Please. Like I've already subscribed to the Protector Life, by the way. I'm going to put this link here in the show, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. Pete, you have any more questions for Jason?
We just touched on that a little bit, but my bias is I'm already I was already scouring. I kind of ran out of time, but how do I find a Clown Motel?
Okay, Clown Motel 2. Hey, Clown Motel 2 is coming out this spring.
Okay.
They're editing it now. Yeah, you can find it. Yeah, Clown Motel.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't. It's gonna be funny. That's the other reason I gave up booze, because I was like, I can't be on screen and looking as bloated. I'm like, I wish they videoed me now after, because I only, but hey, the screen adds 100 pounds to me. Now, but Clown Motel 2, if you go to my IMDb page, it'll be on there and it's going to be out. Believe me, I'll be putting it all over social media. It's funny, man. And I'm looking forward to doing more indie budget movies. That's a new name for it. Rather than B. It's awesome, man. You never know. Yeah. You and I might be in a movie together someday.
Hey, I'm in that hustle, so
hell yeah,
Stranger Things. But I just love the name, and I love clowns, and
we filmed it.
Love-hate relationship with clowns, don't we?
I know. And we filmed at the actual Clown Motel. It's so funny, man.
It's actually an operative.
There's an actual Clown Motel in Nevada. So yeah.
Oh, that just adds to the intrigue, Love it. I'll be looking for that. We want everybody out there looking for that. That'll be on video on demand, I'm sure. That's the way to.
Hey, it was actually in Walmart. Clown Motel 1 was in Walmart and nationwide, international, man. That's big, man.
Hey, that's no small accomplishment.
And believe me, we were using airsoft guns for the weapons, because in order to shoot blank guns, you need an armor. I mean, I had another military advisor on there, Jay Desane, and man, it's awesome. I love it, man. I love it. It's fun. Yeah. I love this past few years has been crazy for me, and that's one thing I want to end with is, before 2018, man, I was nowhere near the media. But if you Google Jason Piccolo whistleblower, you'll kind of see my backstory. But it's so weird to think, 2 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this stuff, man. None of it. And now I'm doing stuff I enjoy, and acting in a Clown Motel, doing podcasts, raising awareness. If my resume now is almost everything I enjoy, besides the day job, which is fine. But when it comes to podcasting, writing books, anything, acting, voiceover, it's just stuff that I've, when you're a kid, you're like, hey, you know what do I want to be when I grow up? And now I'm at that point where I'm almost where I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm doing a bunch of stuff that I enjoy. And one of them is being on other people's show, like your guys. I really enjoyed this. And I'm looking forward to collaborating. I mean, I know Pete Turner and I are always going to collaborate. I'm texting him every night, like 2:00, saying, you up? But
yes,
just
always.
But Pete, I'm looking forward to just talking to you offline about helping out with Hunter 7 and kind of giving you the backtrack into some of these nonprofits out there that are, some of them are really killing it, man, doing great things out there, man.
Yeah. Let me just also say this too, because I want to lift up what Pete Koch does. I mean, it's getting to be New Year time, and I know what Pete says about when should you start. He's like 20 years ago. Quit waiting. Don't wait for the first. But for those of you all waiting for the first, my man here, You can have the Swede train you. You can have Pete Koch train you, however
Yeah.
you want. Look at him on Instagram, how motivational, how inspirational he is. And he does telecoaching. And if you guys want to get into shape and you don't at least look at this, you're fucking crazy, because Pete is super gifted at this. He's tied into all the latest things. He knows about peptides. He knows about what kind of hit workouts. Pete has had hit workouts on his list for 20 plus years. So this is not a new thing to him. And he will absolutely whip your ass into shape, and, give you the mindset. That's the one thing. So I appreciate the hell out of Pete and what he does, and he inspires me. I wish I could follow through my inspiration more, but it's a battle. We keep going,
You will, brother.
So, well, but let me just it's notable that all three of us are, physical fitness is a part of our lives, but in really truly three very different ways for a lot of different reasons. And mine is typically, it's strength training centric. And I know, Pete Turner, it's swimming centric.
Yeah.
You put me in the pool, we're going to need like 9 lifeguards to get my big ass out of the bottom of the pool. I don't even like the water that much. And then Jason, I know we're going to find you with 45-pound plate on your back, like 16 miles up in the mountains or something, which is, and I think that also not only gets your body right, but there's something, that level of rucking and hiking is probably pretty spiritual or
yes,
or something
absolutely,
too.
brother.
So you find what makes you feel right, and part of that, you got to get your head right, and that's a big part of physical fitness. I like to remind people that I don't tell people how to work out. I work with them in a collaboration so that they can achieve their very personal best.
Well, I'm going to check that out too, man. I gotta get rid of this next 30. So let's do this.
Yeah,
Pete,
you need a plan. You
Pete.
need a plan, and you need a commitment to that plan in a consistent way. And that's it. It's no more complex than that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or moaning. It's just, hey, okay. Now that I got a plan, I need to be. Pete said, be consistent. Let's see. What you brush your teeth? You go like what, every third day? No, it's every day you brush your teeth.
Exactly,
Why?
man.
Your teeth are important to you. You learned early on that we need to be consistent with the hygiene of taking care of our teeth. Well, let's just apply that to the 226 bones, 646 skeletal muscles that we have. Let's take care of that whole precious organism and do it every single day.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Tune in to Court TV tonight. I will be on at 9:35. Court TV.
Always on Court TV.
Nice.
Love it.
Court TV, man. Once a week. I love it. Love it.
Indeed.
All right, fellas, let me sign off on this thing. Stand by.